Thank you for tuning into Firebase Prime, your source for tips, tricks, and tutorials to make your life in the Fallout 76 Wasteland just a little easier. Tune in every week as I take a deep dive into new Fallout 76 topics, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos drop. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where I post updates throughout the week. Late last year, Bethesda brought One Wasteland to Fallout 76, a feature that not only opened up the map for exploration much earlier on in the game, but also increased the level of enemies in lower level areas for more experienced players. This change has made many locations in the northern half of the map suddenly open up to become great places to farm XP. In today's video, I'll be covering 3 of these locations, which will now provide you with large numbers of enemies to work your way through, all level 50 and above if playing on a higher level character. Ahead of visiting these locations, remember to prep your character beforehand by consuming any of the food items listed above, equipping the inspirational perk card, making sure that you're well rested, and becoming fully bonded on a casual public team. Taking these steps will ensure that you aren't leaving any free XP on the table and can make a big difference considering the number of enemies that you'll be encountering. But without further delay, let's get into it. First up on today's list is the above-ground portion of Grafton Still, located in the Toxic Valley region just to the north of the Grafton Dam. This location once served as one of Grafton's primary employers before eventually converting to a mostly automated workforce, a process that was greatly accelerated by mounting discontent over the steel mill's notoriously unsafe working conditions. While you'll find none of the original employers or their robotic replacements at the above-ground location, you will find quite possibly the largest concentration of super mutants on the map, rivaled only by the West Tech Research Center. Thanks to One Wasteland, the level of each super mutant is now automatically adjusted up to 50, making this a target-rich environment for quickly picking up some pretty hefty XP gains. In terms of the best approach to take when it comes to engaging the location's many super mutant combatants, that arguably depends on your build. For stealthier builds with ranged weapons, a great approach is to climb the furnace to the highest point of the mill using the conveyor system and take out all the super mutants on the elevated walkways and building rooftops first, then working your way through the many buildings below. This route allows you to engage outside enemies from higher ground instead of having to worry about engaging them as they enter buildings to provide backup to other enemies that you've opened fire on. If you're a heavy gunner in power armor, you can really take whatever approach you want. With combatants being capped at level 50, you can afford to take some hits if you're wearing max leveled armor. Plus, you probably won't be able to reach the top of the furnace without being detected anyway. Next up on the list is the Eastern Regional Penitentiary, located to the west of the Grafton Dam on the border between the Forest Region and Toxic Valley. Prior to the Great War, this location housed convicts and dissidents of all types, ranging from people with unpaid parking tickets to notorious heads of organized crime, including Mad Dog Malone. To counter the building's increasingly deteriorated state, locked doors were eventually replaced with explosive collars, which would detonate and kill a prisoner upon any attempt to escape. After the Great War, radiation eventually turned the prison's population to ghouls, which you'll encounter in ample numbers upon entering the main building or any of the prison's cell blocks. When it comes to farming XP at this location, I'd recommend entering the prison complex from either the prison yard's eastern entrance or the yard's fallen northern wall. Approaching the prison yard from the east or north allows you to deal with groups of enemies at a time versus having every enemy in the yard simultaneously open fire. In the yard and along the prison's outer wall, you'll find a mix of super mutants, floaters, and a few ghouls. If you're a higher level character, all enemies should be level 50, including the floaters. Once you make your way into the prison yard, you'll likely be taking fire from all sides unless you're running stealth, so bringing some protocol power armor isn't a terrible idea. I'd also definitely recommend bringing some form of ranged weapon, as it'll make taking out the super mutants in each of the guard towers much easier. Once you've cleared out the prison yard, you can use one of the many entrances to access the penitentiary. I'd recommend entering through one of the cell blocks instead of the main building so that you can run through the inner cells without having to double back. Once inside, you'll encounter a substantial number of ghouls, all dynamically leveled up to level 50. Make sure to bring Stimpax or a vampire's weapon, as you'll likely be swarmed at least once while working through the different cell blocks. Between the constant sound of ghouls moving and the maze-like design of the cell blocks, this location has a very different feel from most other places in the game, coming off as more of a horror-themed survival experience than a wasteland shooter. And I mean that in a good way. With a lot of the other spots that are frequent for XP starting to blend together, this one stands out as something unique. It's definitely a place worth checking out if you're looking for a change-up to your farming routine. Our final location for today's video is none other than Archos Pharma, which you'll find in the forest region to the north of Helvetia. Prior to the Great War, scientists at this location were heavily focused on an experiment called Project Paradise, with the ultimate goal of creating the perfect habitat for life to exist. While you won't find any of those scientists at Archos Pharma today, you still will find the experiment as well as a substantial number of robots, ghouls, and high-level creatures. While this location's sub-level biome lab has always been a great place for not only farming XP, but also farming legendary enemies, the above-ground section of Archos Pharma was previously lacking. Thanks to One Wasteland, this is no longer the case, as the mix of robots and ghouls that you encounter now dynamically level up to 50. With both sections now suitable for high-level exploration, Archos Pharma is a massive location to visit for grinding XP. To get started, I'd recommend entering via the garage instead of the building's main lobby. This allows you to engage enemies more gradually and take out a fair number of the above-ground location's ghouls, which will otherwise be somewhat unpredictable. From there, advance through the building floor by floor, clearing each level of robots along the way. Once you've cleared the building, head down to the main lobby and use the right ground-level elevator to enter the biome lab. Once in the biome lab, clear out any enemies you find in the main lobby and make your way to one of the 3 biomes, where you'll find a mix of high-level robots, ghouls, and creatures. As you clear each biome, you can either move through the transitional maintenance areas to the next or return to the main lobby and use the wayfinding signs to enter a different biome. This location can be somewhat disorienting, so just remember the biomes essentially form a makeshift circle, with the lobby sitting at the center. Before you leave, make sure to check the lower and upper levels off the main lobby for additional enemies, and also just take a moment to explore the area. This location is one of my favorite spots in the game, and features some of the best level design that you can find in Appalachia, at least in my opinion. On a final note, watch for the Project Paradise public event, which will occasionally spawn in the Biome Lab, as it can be a great event to grind through, especially with a full team. Successfully completing this event will give you a chance at earning some of the game's rarest items, including the recipe for Formula P, plans for the Bear Arm, and a unique Archos Pharma backpack skin. That's all for today's video. I hope these locations provide some fresh scenery for your XP farming efforts. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button, and while you're at it, also subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications each time new videos like this one drop. I'll be back this weekend with a new resource grind, but until then, and as always, for the Enclave.